So come on. You're live. Yay. All right.
Those are at 7:20p, which is good.
All right. We good?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. I'll hang up with you here, okay?
Okay.
Is the sound all right? The audio okay on that end?
Amazing. Hold on. Let me see if let me see where I can get to this. Okay.
Hey, everybody. We're just doing a quick test of the setup here. We're trying something new. Again, we're trying to extend the connectivity here. So, apologize for being a bit later than usual. But it's a big day today. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. One thing that's really great about, hopefully you guys can see me. Hopefully everything is good. One good thing about YouTube Live, you don't have to actually restart the stream like on Facebook Live and others. You could literally reconnect to the same feed you had. So yes. I can restart the feed, but what do you guys think? Can you guys see me and hear me okay? And I'm really glad you guys are still here. Yes. Yes, we're still working with the broadcasting on the phone. So, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot that you guys are still here. A lot of this is very much sometimes a work in progress. As you know, life is messy and things are different. Today we have a very, very busy day. That's why. I also have a big psychic gig coming up, which I do every year, where I help guide high school students, graduates from high school. So a lot of them, I hope that I've guided away from the wrong side of their path potentially, and guided them at least towards where they need to go. So that being said, that's going to be tonight. So I'm going to be up till about 3 o'clock in the morning, and then go back into teaching my students English at 7 o'clock a.m. again. So it's got to be interesting. It's got to be interesting. Fantastic. I'm glad the stream is good. I'm glad the audio is good. So I appreciate you guys being here. And again, apologize for the tech glitch. We are trying to go straight up mobile because ultimately this would be a great idea and viable way of working with. Like last week, I did it from the historical graveyard near my house. Connectivity wasn't great, but it did turn out the stream was good in the end of it all, and it was still working, a working editable show, which was fantastic. So thank you all for being there last week in experiment mobile number 1. So now with today, as you can tell, you can probably see that my face is awfully red. Yes, I've gotten a lot of sun, but part of the reason of that is doing some DIY stuff around the house. And two of the big projects, other than rain that we've had here in Rhode Island, it's been raining like crazy. So to do DIY and to do projects outside the home isn't always fun. And the topic is going to be how to stay sane, how to stay sane in that kind of situation. You know, how to not go crazy, not try to kill people in the process of going into your project from beginning to end. So that's a big part of it. And that topic came so easily. It was like, wow, even I was very challenged with how doing this with family. It was not, and this is just a start. We're not even done yet. So this is not even started yet. This is the beginning stages. So you're catching it in the beginning stages, real time, of what it's like to do in the process. So that's really important. So now, so what we're going to do is we're going to start the show in about, say, 1 minute, and then we'll get it going. But thank you very much, and I appreciate all you being here. So it's great to see you guys here, and some people I haven't seen in a while. I've missed you. It's been too long. So let's get this thing going. Right now, let's do it. Right. So, welcome to Inside with Moonshadow. I am Moonshadow. I'm an integrative holistic therapist, intuitive shaman, and interfaith minister with and CHI-vangelist over 30 years of experience here in the U.S. as well as internationally. My goal and aim is to guide and empower you so you yourself can be the best you can be, and you can be the light, or you can expand yourself out there and be better to other people as well. So in today's episode, we have episode 74, believe that or not, episode 74. It's been 74 episodes. So I want to thank all of you for being here, 74 episodes. And for the new people that come in, it's a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to have you here and share my story and my learning experiences and my wisdom, share that with you. So I appreciate you for being here on this episode. So now, in this episode, it's all about mindfulness and DIY. So a lot of times, to start off, we have, if you watch, hello, Philly Muse, welcome. So to start off, when you start off with a DIY, now I'll tell you, I watch HGTV quite often, and I also watch the real reality shows of, like First Time Flippers and Restoration Nightmares and all those shows that they decide to do things themselves. Now I'm sure if you have a significant other at home that wants to do DIY stuff that isn't as handy, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. They sometimes think they know everything. That's great. Let's see here. But needless to say, thank you. So now, looking at it from that perspective, you have the situation where, looking at a project, any project that it could be, the first thing you need to do is really look at if it's above you or if it's stronger or bigger than. Okay, so that's one of the big things. A lot of times people don't realize how big a project is until they get, knee deep in it. When they get knee deep in it, that's when it gets real. So now, first thing is first. you're looking at a project, and it seems really easy on TV. It seems really easy on HDTV. It really seems easy even on a YouTube channel. However, be aware of what you're looking at, and this is one of the first tips that I'm going to share with you. In Hey Tony, welcome, welcome. Now the first thing that I'm going to say is the fact that first be aware of what the project is. Look at the scope of what the project is, because a lot of times we don't necessarily realize how deep or how much work it's involved. It's very easy with the magic of Hollywood, but from other episodes, what you see isn't necessarily what you actually know or actually see. Welcome, Savannah. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to see you. Thank you for being here. So that's the first thing, is knowing if the project is above you or not, is more than you could chew, or more than you can bite into, or more than you can handle. So that's number one. Now, I am not saying that you should not try it. I am not saying that you shouldn't try making an adventure and do what you want to do and make it happen. I'm going to say go for it. But I will say another moon tip or another moon site here is be prepared to subcontract. So these are the practical tips. But we're going to go into the more juju moon oriented tips shortly as well. So now, so be prepared to call someone in to fix or repair or do something or help or be a support team. Okay, we have a quick question, if this is a viable question, which hopefully it is. So when that question comes up, we'll answer that question. So now, looking at a project, you know that you want to try this project, this DIY project. You know that you want to go for it, and that's good. Now, yes, also, you always want to be prepared. So you want to make sure you get the proper tools. You always want to make sure you now, as much as I live by intuition and instinct and usually use my Leatherman for pretty much everything. Now, that's really great in a pinch. But when it comes to a larger project, you definitely proper everything, because no one wants to have to go back and forth to the store or Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever to have to replace or buy more. So try to get a good amount of what you need at the time to get you pretty far, if not to completion, because that sometimes is the case. Fantastic. That's lovely. Not as many as you, and that's basically it. So, so moving on. This is a wonderful day in the neighborhood. This is going to be a topic in itself, and we'll have to edit this stuff out. So anyway, so now looking, you always want to make sure you have enough of your project, enough of the tools, everything that you need to start the project going. Now, once you do have the project going, then at that point, prep work and instruction. Now, I've always been someone that didn't necessarily look at instructions all the time. A lot of it is intuitive and instinctive. However, the big part of it is very much like Michael is saying, you need to be prepared. You need to have the proper tools. So that's number one. So now, research a little bit before you even start the thing, and you realize, okay, this is something I'm taking on. Making sure that you have all the right tools and you have a good idea or a basic knowledge of what instructions you need to do. That's the important part, because that way you are able to now see how long it's going to take, give or take, baseball, ballpark figure, how long it's going to take, if it's time for curing, if there's time for preparing, anything like that. Because right now I'm working on a deck, and I'm also going to be assembling a gazebo. So very much so, it's very possible that I will be streaming from my back deck when everything is all said and done. So now also, so once you have all the tools and you have everything set, moving forward, that is great. Also understand too, another moonsight for you is just because they say you will need, or someone at the said store that you are at, sometimes they'll say all you need is this. Be prepared to get more, because a lot of times it could be operator error, it could be temperature, it could be a lot of things can change where you have to utilize more of a product. So that's something to think about as well. So definitely some new locations coming up as well. That's absolute. So that's going to be cool, and hopefully less unnecessary interruptions. Now, as a side note, there is absolutely no reason to take that much effort to do what you lovely people do. So I'm going to say, may you get what you truly deserve. Truly deserve. And it may be what you just suggested. So, that being said, next. So now, looking at, you have everything you need. Everything is good. You have all the tools set up. You have everything ready to go. So now you are going through your project. You are starting your project, and then you find that it's a little more than you can handle. Or now this is another thing. It's really important to also the person or people that you're working with to all be on the same page. This is really, really important, because you've heard the saying, too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Well, if everyone thinks they know everything, they know the whole project, they know what they're doing, and if you're not a cohesive unit, then things are going to go wrong and things are going to go badly. And thank you very much, Michael, for that. I appreciate it. So this also is part of it as well. So looking at it from that perspective, you all need to be on the same page. So you notice, the one thing you do notice, that there's always someone that kind of is the alpha in the group to say, okay, this is what's going on. How about you do this? How about you do that? I will work on this, and then we'll go from there. So then that's basically how a smooth machine runs, with all the gears going and it's going smoothly. So now, that being said, once there's an agreement where there's in any big project, now with DIY you're not going to find this, but in any big project usually there's a project manager. There's someone that's kind of the head person that connects everybody, connects all the pieces. That's the go-to person to say, this is what's going on, this is what we need. Oh, by the way, we ran out of 2x4s, or we ran out of paint, or we need to run to get new brushes because this brush is broken or defective. So that's another big part of it. So now, what do you do with all of this? What do you do when you're mid-project and it all goes to crap? What do you do? Well, this is the real basis on why we're here today. This is why I chose this as a topic for today. Because, yes, general contractor, right? That's always a plus too. However, in this day and age, we don't always have the money or the resources to go ahead and get a general contractor. Believe me when I tell you. Now, granted, I like to be handy in certain things. I like to be handy in things that I feel confident in, and that's where I will specify. But the thing is, when it's something that's way above you, that's going to take a few days, it's going to larger stuff. Be prepared to know your scope, know where your skill set is. If you are someone that has never done plumbing before, plumbing may seem really easy, but then when it goes wrong, be prepared to call a plumber or know where the valve is to shut it down. and then you can call a plumber to fix what you decided, quote unquote, to try to fix. So that's one of the important things. So now what happens? You decide to do this, you didn't think it was something that you couldn't handle, you go in it, you're not fully connected or fully let's say simpatico with the person or people that you're working with on this project. What do you do when it goes to hell? This is the main reason why we're having this conversation at this point. So now, number one of the first things is this. First thing you do is sometimes you just need to stop and take a breath. That's a big part of it. Sometimes you just need to stop and take a breath. Step back. Because as you've learned from previous broadcasts, once you say something, you cannot unring that bell. Once you've done something, you can't take away that action. So it would be preferable for you to take 5 to 10 seconds. And believe me, when you are in that state, that frenetic state of not knowing what to do, or anxious, or annoyed, or any of those not so good, warm and fuzzy feelings, those 10 seconds are going to feel like 10 minutes. But the thing is, it's really, really important for you to do that. And the reason why I say that, because the project and the resolution of the project and the end result of the project is in jeopardy at that moment in time. It's everything. It's so important. So say, for example, you just walk away. Well, now what? It's going to cause more. So now that could cause a lot of problems. And as you know, looking at just the world today, and without getting into detail about the energy of the world today, we have a lot more inappropriate behavior, inappropriate people making decisions. It's chaos. You got family members fighting over certain things. Racism has been thrown on its head, so it's even worse now. Everything has changed. So that being said, a lot of times we don't always think about what we're going to say, or when we say it, when we're heated. So during this situation, when you're in the middle of a project, the last thing you want to do is say something you don't mean, or say something out of anger. And I know it seems really, really great and easy, and it makes you feel good for that moment to say, hey, this is the deal. But most of the time, you're really talking or really speaking out of turn because you're just annoyed or you're aggravated. So one of the things is you want to stop. Take a breath and think for about 5-10 seconds. Sometimes you need to assess the situation before you go back in. So that's a big part of it. And a lot of times people don't always make that decision. They don't always do that, because they just get more and more heated, and then the project, and to be fair and to be honest, the project's just going to get worse and worse, and it's just going to be like, you've heard the term shit rolls downhill. Well, it'll be like a snowball of crap going down. Now also too, Michael is saying take a coffee break. Absolutely. Unless it's a major spill or something like that is a problem, Now also Ariel says a leader with compassion makes more progress than one that leads with anger. So I fully agree. And me being a reluctant leader myself, I'm not always the one to jump in head first and say, I'll help, or I'll get you. Like, I'll help. But to assume anyone is super knowledgeable, or the person that knows everything, that's really not the way to go. But someone that is knowledgeable enough to say, okay, I'm the go-to person, let's do this, and I'll run lead point. That's really, really important. So if you go ahead and you stop and think and say, okay, and this has happened recently. In fact, it happened yesterday, where part of the project wasn't being done as it was supposed to be done. So now had to take a step back and you have to do it basically over again from scratch, even though it was it was tough. It was a tough situation. But the thing was, instead of taking the tactic of being really aggravated, because it's a long day. When you're doing something like that, when you're doing deck work, or if you're painting a house, you can't just stop in the middle of it and say, "Well, we're done." You can't do it. You have to put the first coat. The first coat has to be down, or the first room has to be done. Something has to come to completion. You can't just leave part of it undone, unless there's an emergency. Hack off your finger, which I hope you'd never do that, because that would not be fun. Hacking off a finger. So ultimately, you want to make sure that you have a grip on what's going on. So now, fast forward, yes. So finally, we're back on track, which is really, really good. It took communication. That's another big one. Communication. Very few people, especially nowadays, communicate as well as we used to. So that is in itself is a real big issue. Because if there is no communication, then how can anything run smoothly? Anything. Nothing can run smoothly that way. You know? So communication, having a plan, having some form of go-to, and of course, it's always good. Yeah, let's try to keep all body parts intact. That's right. So don't and that's a big part of it. You got to just know what you're doing and don't do anything in haste, because sometimes in recentering and regrounding yourself, now you could do it multiple ways. You could do it by taking a breath. Okay, you can do it by stopping, taking a breath. As Michael said, you can take a coffee break or a beer break. You could do that too, as long as it's not 18 beers, because then you're going to have a crap project as well. But the thing is, when you go in and then you have some form of grounding, some form of ability to say, okay, look, this is the situation. This is what we're doing. This is what we're going to do today. So that's another moon site. Split up the project into pieces. If it takes a little bit longer, it's going to turn out better if you do anything in haste. If you say, you know what, I am going to paint the whole house and I'm doing 2 coats all today. Now, in the immortal words of John Lennon, life is what happens when you're busy making plans. So be flexible. That's another moon site for you. You have to be flexible with your project, because your project, I can almost guarantee your project will not happen exactly the way you want it to be. No different than this broadcast didn't happen exactly as I wanted it to be. So, is it back to the drawing board? Is it all messed up? No. It's called adapt and be flexible. And that's really, really important. So be knowledgeable, communicate well, have a go-to person that is a lead person for the project, and be flexible, be adaptable. Realize that, okay, one can of paint may not match the other. So you may have to do something about that. You may have to adapt. You may have to bring it back and getting another one done. And that's where it's usually better when you have more than one person. I tend to like to do things independently, by myself, with myself, because then I don't have anyone to fight with but myself. But the thing is, you also don't have the extra support. You don't have the extra help. If you're in a bind, you don't have anyone to talk you down from it. So that's also part of it. So being someone that's going to be wanting to control everything, or thinking that you know everything, you don't. Even contractors that know quite a bit don't know everything. And you'll notice if you actually talk to a good contractor, things do happen. Things do change. You can order something sight unseen. A lot of times, the project you have to order something sight unseen, and then you find out, oh, wait a minute, something's wrong. Something got messed up. So now, adaptation and flexibility. That's important. Also be aware of now this is where it gets tricky. Mother Nature. If you're doing anything, any outdoor DIY, guess what? Mother Nature's going to she's going to have her say. She's going to have her say no matter what. Most of the projects that have needed to be done here at my home should have been done already. If it wasn't for the rain, the consistent rain that we've had here in Rhode Island, it wouldn't have been so bad. But since it's rained like crap, it's been like monsoon season over here. It's been very difficult to stay on point, stay on track, and be able to have a formal, a good timeline to get the project done. So adaptability and working with you have to work with humidity, you have to work with temperature, you have to work with all of that, even indoors. Even if you're painting indoors, if it's too humid, your paint's going to take longer to dry. So be aware of those things and at least look into it a little bit more. And if you do that, I think that you will have more of a possibility of it going well. Now, also, and Zavanis is, you're absolutely right. The smell of a great rainstorm is fantastic, but it's really not as good when you're in the middle of trying to do a project or doing yard work or getting something done. That's the only downside. But I'll tell you, a great light summer rain and sitting outside and just listening and watching, fantastic. It's fantastic, and it's an awesome thing. Just when you're not trying to do a project, like a good thunderstorm. A good thunderstorm, well placed, is kind of nice, especially when you're safe and dry and in the house and you can hear it. Unless you're one of those people that get freaked out. Unless you get freaked out about thunderstorms. But it's interesting. But it's Mother Nature is an amazing thing, absolutely. But it's important to count her in. You have to count her in. So if you need, for example, I have a gazebo that was delivered. It wasn't ready to be assembled because rain stopped us up. Get it? We had a tarp handy, so you got to put the tarp right over it. So that's part of it. So make do and add Mother Nature into your project, especially when you're working outside. Exactly. Now, and this is also part of it too. I'm glad that you brought up dogs because even in working with animals, be prepared to put them aside or have them gated or have them partitioned off from your project, especially when you're working with stain, paint, or something that you can put doggy paws everywhere. So that's also an aspect too. Children and animals, and I appreciate you guys bringing up pets because pets and children can also make something really fun and kind of get in the way a little bit. So add them to the project. Put them somewhere they can paint even. Have them somewhere where they can paint a certain section. Now granted, be expecting that depending on their age, it may not be contractor perfect. But they will feel incredibly involved and they'll feel happy that they were involved in the project. So just make sure that you kind of set them up and say, okay, this is what we're doing. This is your job. Because also, even in a DIY situation, children want to be helpful. I remember when I was younger, I also wanted to be super helpful. Oh, luckily, Savannah, your dog is like chill. My dog would be like, hey, what are you doing? Can I help? What's happening? Give me a paintbrush. I know I don't have an opposable thumb. It's okay. I can do it. He's that smart. And I've seen him do some pretty crazy things. So he's quite resourceful when need be. Like when he needs something, he will go and flip his dish. He won't move his dish. He will flip his dish. And wow. And Savannah's got a mastiff, so he takes up a couch. He takes up a couch, guaranteed. Hey, you know what? You can strap paint cans to him so he can help by carrying stuff. Okay, she can help. So children and animals, you can potentially, if they're really, really incredibly intelligent and talented and gifted, you can also add them in the fun. But just kind of put them slightly further away from where you're at, so that way you can always get to that spot and kind of just, fix up what they did a little bit. And if it's their room, if it's only paint, let them fully get involved. So that'd be a way. Now, I would have to say, if having an animal be, help being helpful as, like, say, a transferable thing, transferable support person on the team, or support being on the team, would be fantastic. You have a pouch over them, and you can kind of, like, like a pack, like how pack mules are. You stack them on and say, all right, bring this brush, or give this brush and say, bring this brush to daddy, or bring this brush to so and so, and hopefully they don't chew it up. It's a gamble, it's a risk. But bring in the family. That's it, also very, very important to bring in the family, and to more help is always good, as long as everyone kind of knows their job and knows what they're doing, or takes direction relatively well. You can get through this project pretty well, and without too much of an issue or too much of a problem. So that's a few things that you could do as well. Now, once you've avoided a meltdown, things didn't go so horrible. Now you can go right back to task. So you took a breath, you grabbed a beer, had a coffee, whichever it was, did yoga or Tai Chi, whatever it is. You brought yourself back to center. Once you do that, and you can recommunicate your situation. You could say, okay, that could have gone badly. So how about we get back on track here? So that's important. And then sometimes you have to reassess what people are doing and what people aren't. Be prepared to shift. If you do have support help, be prepared to shift someone over to a different project if something is too much for them, or to make it a little different. So that's important. And also, I really appreciate all of you guys being here during the broadcast, and all the engagement in the feed. I do appreciate that. Questions, comments, appropriate comments, mind you, and I do appreciate all of that for sure. And that's part of the many reasons why I do this every week. So once you get through that, another big moon site as well. Aw, thank you. And love's right back. Another big part of it is this: know when to stop. Now, being raised European, being raised Portuguese, guess what? Most Portuguese people don't know when to stop. They drag themselves, and they go way too far, and then when they're exhausted, that's when things are going to go wrong. So you're now going to go backwards. You're not going to be as successful as you were, because you've already run out of steam, or are going to run out of steam. So get to a functional spot of where your project is, and be able to stop and say, okay, you know what? We got the first coat done. Tomorrow is another day. Know where your limit is, because a lot of time we push ourselves far more than we should, and then we do. And then when we push ourselves far more than we should, that's when things get really squirrely. That's when things get really screwed up, and then you don't want to have to go back and redo things. You don't want to have to go back and have to start all over, because sometimes that's the mistake. Sometimes that's the hard lesson that you get into, is having to do it all over again. And you don't want that. So knowing when to stop. Now, there is someone that I know that's very, very near and dear that had a problem with a wall. Yes, folks, a problem with a wall. And not only a problem with a wall, it was one spot on the wall. And no, I'm not singling them out, but they had a problem with one spot on the wall. So what happens? So now here comes Moon to lighten the situation. I knew this was going to come up too. The wall epic, the wall scenario, the wall snafu. But now, technically, this is also connecting to perception. Now, inspecting the wall, and no, I was not physically there to inspect the wall. The wall looked fine. So sometimes another moon site is to have someone else double check or look over what you've done. Because you could be tired, you could be stressed, you could be strained, you could be overdone, and then so obviously you guys know that it just got singled out. So they stepped forward. But yes. But the thing was, that little spot wasn't really an issue. It was really the perception of the person involved with that damn spot. Now, sometimes, no matter how many times you do it or how many times you go there, it's not going to change. Now, Einstein has a saying. His definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That's Einstein's definition of insanity, right? So now, that's exactly what happened, was that spot turned into a massive, like it turns into a massive thing. So there is now like 20 coats on that wall. I might be exaggerating. Maybe maybe 5 coats or 6 coats or more. But the thing is, ultimately, perceiving and knowing, yes, and this deck probably will have an extra coat just because the primary aspect of the project already went kind of wrong because there wasn't someone with a good handle on the project on board right away. But now it looks great. It looks fantastic, and the project's on board now. It's going as well as it should. Tomorrow is going to rain, so there's nothing that could be done tomorrow. But Wednesday, Thursday, Friday here in Rhode Island is supposed to be bright, sunny, and wonderful. So then we can jump back on it. And I'm glad we're entertaining you, Savannah, because you're awesome peeps. Absolutely. So now looking at this. So what can we learn? What can we learn, kids? You know, don't do above what you can't do. And if you plan on doing that, that's great. I'm not going to stop you from doing that. However, I will say it's important for you to know that you may need to call a professional. Keep your composure and also communicate really well. Communicating is so important with anything. Now, also, in the realm of communicating, I have experienced a little bit prior to. In communicating, sometimes if you have nothing nice to say, don't. Just don't. And that's the friendly version of don't. And lots of love to you, Savannah, as well. And it's really nice to have all of you come in every week and pop in and say hey and be part of it. So now, when you're involved in that kind of situation, know that you may have to get someone else to do or to help or to fix something. So just know where your scope is and know where your ability is to a point. Don't try to be a hero. Don't expect that everything is going to be absolutely perfect because, again, life is messy. So things are going to get in the way. Things are going to happen. Shit happens, people. And that's for sure. And it will happen. If it's bound to happen, it's going to happen when you least expect it. So what's that? I call it the oh shit factor, but I'll have to try to remember that. But there's a phenomenon that happens when you least expect it. So when you least expect it, it will happen. So be prepared for some of the things that may potentially get in your way or stop you up or make you take a new run, another run to go to, your local hardware store or big box chain store. So these are some of the tips. Murphy's Law, exactly. Thank you very much. It's Murphy's Law. When it's bound to happen, what you least think will happen will be bound to happen, according to Murphy's Law. And I don't know who Murphy is, but Murphy's pretty prominent. So yeah. So now, looking at your project overall, once you realize where your project is and where you're at, and then here's a big one. Here's a big one as well. Is be able to know and be proud of yourself. Be proud of yourself. At the end of the day, you've done everything you could. Be proud of yourself that you've gotten as far as you did. Be happy. And there's nothing wrong with patting yourself on the back to say, look, I did it. There were situations and there were issues and all that, but it's done. You know? And of course, here on Insight with Moonshadow, it's a non-judgmental, non-critical type area and zone and show. So unless you're not being an a-hole, you have a safe space here. And yes, I said that. Don't be an a-hole. Don't bother with that stuff. You're either part of the problem or part of the solution. I prefer being part of the solution. So if you're going to take the breath to say something inappropriate, just don't. So don't be an a-hole. Pure and simple. No room for it. Now, I don't know if that will be edited out or not. Who knows? It may stay in. It may be a moon site. It may end up on Facebook post. I don't know. You never know with what I pull off. You never know what can happen. I never know what can happen. That's the wonderful thing about living life in a shamanic, intuitive, and instinctive way. You never know what's going to happen. That's right, Michael. So now, taking a look at that. Now, once you've gotten through your project or partway through your project, know when to take stock, know when to back up, and know when to be able to say and to be proud of yourself for getting that far. There is really no unless you there is no such thing as mistakes, honestly. The difference is it's just going to cost you more. So one of the things that I've learned a long time ago when I was doing construction was measure twice, cut once. So there's nothing wrong with measuring more than once to verify and validate and make sure that you have everything done correctly. Make sure you're having all the parts and make sure you have the tools. There's nothing wrong with just going one extra step and making sure everything is set. Because if you do that, your project's going to be a lot smoother. So now, incorporating the mindfulness aspect of it. Know if you are really not feeling if you're really not feeling it to do the project, if it's a small project, you may be able to push it. You may be able to gain the strength or gain the knowledge or gain the ability or pick up the juju to do it. That's great. But if you're really not feeling it, if you're really not wanting to do it, if your instincts are saying, this is just a bad day to do this project, there's always tomorrow. Tomorrow is another day. Now, granted, if you're a contractor and it's business and you're on a project and you're it's a time crunch, totally different. That's a different situation. That's business. But when it's your own project and it's something that you're doing and something that you signed on for, then you are in control of it. You could say, look, if it's like 60% possibility of rain, don't go paint your house. If it's 10%, it might be worth the gamble because it may or may not rain. Mother Nature is funny like that. But overall, know and have some focus and idea on your own grounding, your own mindfulness, on if you're prepared, if you're ready, do you have the tools, do you have the juju or the strength to be able to get it done? Because if you don't, maybe you need a support person. Maybe you need a couple of more people to add on for that project. Also, too, if given the opportunity, call on people in your tribe. Call on people in your tribe. Call on people that are good support people. I am very blessed to have good support people in my life. And I appreciate all of you wholeheartedly. Whether it be through brainstorming, there are quite a few people that have, brought in great suggestions for new shows. Oh, Moon, I was thinking this would be a great topic for your show. Or, I loved your show last week, but, where the location was, it kind of did this and this and that. So, love feedback and love the communication. And I appreciate all of that because as I learn from myself, I learn from you, I learn from everyone. And we all should learn from each other because we're all part of the same tribe. Believe it or not. Even the a-holes. So now, moving forward. So now you've come back to terms with things. You've taken a breath. You've gone and had a coffee. You come back. You finish your project or finish the day's work. So goal setting. Goal setting is very important. So when you have a goal, you say, okay, I am going to complete this, or this is my main goal for today. One coat. Now, granted, last night I was painting up until it was getting dark. But you know what? It looks fantastic. Despite the hiccups, despite the issues, it's going to look absolutely fantastic just because that's the intention that I have set. And also that's important too. Setting the intention, setting the energy, and knowing that this is going to work out and it's going to work out well. Because I'm staying grounded, staying focused, and staying on task, knowing when to walk away, knowing when to step back in, all of that is incredibly important. And exactly, Michael, you need to make your goals reasonable because everyone, and I'm going to say everyone, including myself, I've made the mistake. I thought I was Billy Badass with doing a project, and then you know what? Overwhelm happens, and then you're a quarter way in, and then you're like, holy crap, now what? Now you're in it. Now at that point, you're in it to win it. You're in it. You cannot change it. So, like, for example, like one story. I had a friend that was fixing up her house. So now she decided not to do one room, but multiple rooms, more than one room. So, needless to say, instead of a little more planning, and again, incredibly intelligent person, just bit off more than they can chew. They made it to the point where they could not sleep in the bed. They couldn't sleep in their bed because the way they planned the project, it ended up with a lot of messy spots and the inability to fix or to be able to sleep in your own bed at night. So have an end game, have an end result for that day. Even if it's not the end result for the project, have an end result for the day. So you have a mainstream goal, a timeline, but also know, okay, I still want to be able to shower. I still want to be able to clean up. I still want to be able to go to bed. I still want to be able to do those things. So be prepared to clean up the mess within a reasonable time so you can go back and you can restart again. Also, too, very good point, Ariel. Don't paint yourself into a corner. With this deck project, I had to formulate a plan. Why? Because, say for example, you start one place and then you go up. Now, if I started doing the deck first and then decided to stain the railings, stain gets on the deck, that's cleanup. That could be problematic, well, isn't it? So now, doing the railings, therefore, any dripping goes down on the deck, you're doing the deck anyway. So know just how to put things into perspective and how to put things in such a way where you are working, and this is a big one, this is a big moon site, work smarter more than harder, because that's where inefficiency happens. If you work harder and not smarter, then you're going to find yourself doing a lot more and not getting necessarily a better result. So you'll find yourself having to do things more than once. You'll find yourself having to do things, go back for more paint, or tools get gouged up if you don't clean them up soon enough. If you don't put them in a bag to keep them moist for the moment, all those things. You really need to think about that stuff, because during a project, especially with like painting and that kind of thing, that can get in the way, and then that could stop you up and hold up everything in the process. So staying mindful, staying grounded, incredibly important. Don't paint yourself into a corner, because what are you going to do then? You're going to have to paint yourself. You're going to have to paint that spot again. So working smarter instead of harder. This does not mean, and I will say this, and I will say this as well. This does not mean that you are not working hard or not doing it right. What it is you're being efficient. Because I've known people that have their own work ethic. I work with and I teach students that have a pretty harsh, really constrictive work schedule, work culture. And I'll tell you this, it doesn't help in the mind, body, and spirit balance to work hard and not smart. So be efficient. You have a project, be smart about it. Set your goals, figure out a timeline, don't overdo it. Don't bite more off than you can chew. Even if this project takes a couple of time, a bit longer, an extra couple of days, it's not the end of the world, because you, and the end result, you will find that it looks really incredible. So take a look at that. So be prepared. Find people that support people. Don't do anything yourself if you can't. Or if you're going to get overwhelmed. You could use a landline. You could do that too. If you're about to lose it, call someone. Even if it's just someone that you can call to say, look, I'm in the middle of this project. I'm going to lose my mind. Talk me down from the ledge. Now, that's something that you could do. Now, also, too, as you can see, you see some of the guidelines and tips that are in the chat. So, and I appreciate that. My dutiful producer, Ariel. So now, this is important. These are important things. Now, if you go in and work with these little moon sites, then, crap is still going to probably happen. But, crap will still probably happen. And Murphy's Law still will happen. And Mother Nature still will intervene. It's no doubt. It still may end up being messy. after all utilizing all these tips again, because none of us are perfect. We are all a work in progress. And this is something that we don't always realize. Since we're not perfect, things will happen, but adapt, go with the flow, and realize that you are not, it's not the be all end all. What's the worst thing that can happen? Well, if you don't know when to stop and step back and look at what you're doing, which is another tip, another moon site there for you. If you don't, sometimes it's good to stop and take a fresh look. Now, you've heard me say fresh eyes, step back with fresh eyes. That I got from my BFF, so that I cannot say I coined it. But sometimes you need to step back with fresh eyes to see, okay, is everything looking good so far? Is everything going according to plan? Let's check time. Let's check sunrise, sunset. Okay? It could cost more time, it could cost more money if you don't step back with fresh eyes. So that's also incredibly important. And there's nothing wrong if you know someone, if someone is really good at organizing and not being overbearing, make them your project manager. Make them someone that is an organizer to say, okay, this is the list. Do you need anything? That person could run to the hardware store. That's an added plus. Because if you have to go do that, then it can be a problematic thing. Because now you're doing everything yourself. Now, do it yourself, it's something where it could be an amazing experience. Doing it yourself, you can be very proud with the things you finish. Doing it yourself, also if it's yours, as if it's your house or your space, you could really look at things from a new perspective and say, you know what, I did that. So what I can say to you is this, is you should be proud of yourself to start a project and to finish, even with the mistakes or hard lessons, even where there's, and a lot of times too, and Ariel's making a valid point. There's nothing wrong with being able to gain more instruction or gain someone else's perspective. Now, I'm here on YouTube. I do YouTube Live and I have a YouTube channel. But I'll tell you, there are many, many times if I need something, if I need to figure out something or sort something out, I will also gain instruction from other fellow YouTubers. Because I would rather, and this is another big moon site. This is a big moon site. You can learn this about DIY, you can learn this about life, you can learn this about everything. Everything. What the important thing is this. Learn from other people's mistakes. Be watchful. Be observant. Because if someone goes ahead and made a huge faux pas, a huge mistake, or a huge learning lesson with a certain product, a certain thing, a certain decision they made, learn from their experience. Because if you can learn from their experience, you're in it. You have more success that can happen. Because believe me, if they were in your shoes, they would want you to share your experience with them so they don't make the same mistake twice. So they don't have to be charged more money or have to buy more paint or have to do more things or have to figure out how to fix a possible really messy situation. All of that is really, really key. All of it's really, really key. So in summary, get help, get support, have support. Make sure to have someone that's a go-to person that is calm. That's important. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Take a real good look at the project at hand, how long it will take, and to know or see if you have the resources, time, and patience, and the will to make that timeline happen. So be reasonable and be kind. because just because you can say, and look, we do this, a lot of us do this all the time. We have a New Year's resolution, and where does that resolution go? In what I call the round file, which is the rubbish bin. It's gone. So do something and plan on something that you are actually going to accomplish. If you're not going to accomplish it, then it's not the point of making it a goal. Change the goal to a more reasonable goal. And then when you do that, that's when you're going to find that things are going to go more successful, even in more baby steps. So if you take a big project or anything that you do, whether it's something that you're creating physically, a goal that you're setting to, like, get more fit, lose weight, eat better, whatever it is, break it down into reasonable, smaller steps, because then that way you can feel proud of yourself, that you can go ahead and you can say, look, you know what? This is what I put down. This is what I actually had in mind. This is what I wanted to do, and I did it. So only you can be or feel like you're a failure. So if you work efficiently, work smart, try to eliminate being overly stressed or overly anxious, you too can finish DIY projects. You can be a better person. You could overcome a lot of things. And I'll even tell you, you can even overcome physical things. So that's also part of it. It's important for you to extend, and as Ivana is saying, to be creative. So be the best person you could be. That's the best thing you can do. Because if you do that, then you're going to find yourself that you're going to know what it takes. You're going to know what you have. You're going to know your gifts. You're going to know your strengths. And you're going to know your weaknesses all at the same time. So I'm going to tell you, don't not have a project. Don't not try to do things. Try them. Worst case scenario, they don't go as well as you wanted it to, but at least you tried it. At least you did it. At least you went about it, and you're going to learn from it. All of this is a learning lesson. All of this is an experience or an opportunity to realize what you're made of. And this is one of the reasons why I do what I do. And this is one of the reasons why I share what I share here on my channel and my social media as well. This isn't about being critical. This isn't about being judgmental. This isn't about adding to the problem. It's all about being part of the solution. It's all about trying to be the light or be the reflection of the light and dissipate as much darkness as possible within reason, because there's a lot out there. So, now that being said, I'm going to close up this broadcast, and I want to thank all of you for being here. So, I want to thank you all so much for being here on Insight with Moonshadow, episode 74. So next week will be episode 75. Maybe I'll plan something something interesting for the 75th episode, because it's kind of monumental. 75 weeks without a hitch. No matter what. That's pretty awesome. And I am proud to have been doing this, and I am proud to still be here and doing it every week on Moon Day at 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So I want to thank you all for spending time with me here. You all really truly inspire me, because me sharing my experience and learning from your experiences really is what makes us all one tribe. So thank you so much for doing that. If you feel connected, you want to subscribe, you have any insights yourself, you have any suggestions, feel free to let me know. I would love to know what you would want to know. Maybe topic ideas. If you have a topic idea, feel free to shoot a message over to me. All of it. Very, very, very important. And as I say every week, be strong, be amazing, be you. Thanks, guys. Love and light to you all, including the a-holes. Thanks for making my life absolutely wonderful. You guys take care.